Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the reports that can be generated by Tiller Labs, and we're going to focus today on the roll-up reports. I want to do a quick check-in on terminology for reports. It's important to know that how reports differ from the concept of templates. Templates are live updating. Like, for example, this monthly budget view is live updating. If we update the feeds in this spreadsheet, these values will change, the charts will change, the data's live. The way we use the word reports is they're static snapshots. So you basically, a script generates them, puts them in your sheet. But if you do an update feeds after you generate a report, the data won't change. It's a static snapshot. And the reason we do it this way is that it's better for performance. If you create a bunch of reports and they're constantly responding, all of them, to the entirety of your transaction sheet, your spreadsheet will kind of become crippled. And so reports don't work that way. We have had, if we click over to the tools here and jump onto create reports, you'll see the reports we offer. It's going a little slow right now.
Blame it on Zoom.
I am blaming it on Zoom. Here we go. So create reports. We've had a category roll-up report for a long time. It was in the original Tiller add-on. And what both reports or roll-up reports allow us to do is dig into the detail of how categories are influenced by individual transaction line items. So let's run through setup here real quick. We're going to do category roll-up. We can choose to include uncategorized transactions and also hidden categories. One cool feature about the category roll-up that is not in this other one that we're going to demo next is the ability to create your own periods. So here you could do last 12 months, last quarter. You can see every time I click on a preset, the dates change. And you can also go in and customize, like if you change this to include, July, you can see it just switches over to custom. So you can create custom periods. We're going to run this for last month, and I'm going to click create report. The reports take, depending on the size of your transaction sheet, 20 seconds to make. So that is happening right now. And you can see now I have a new tab in my spreadsheet. Up here, you'll note that the settings for the report are captured up in this header. And then here you can see all the transactions within this period, April 1 to April 30th, sort of grouped by the category that's been assigned to them in the transaction sheet. So anyway, this is relatively simple. This one's been around for a while. But we created a new version of this report called the budget period roll-up. And the reason for that is that it's a little bit tricky to go through and understand this information when you're trying to reconcile it with the budget, because the budget information is separate. Right now, you'd have to click over to the category sheet and kind of look at this column here, or you'd have to look at this and kind of go back and forth to be like, wait, which one was over and how much was it over? So the new report that I'm going to show you next is called the budget period roll-up, and it's meant to optimize the report, the category roll-up report for budgeters by basically consolidating transaction and budget content into one place for better to better understand the data. I built this because personally, I'd see at the end of the month, my groceries went over, but I wouldn't really know what transactions drove that. Or I'd have something in like a technology category and I'd be like, I don't remember what I bought. And this is really meant to see those line items. So to demo this report, I'm going to click on budget period roll-up, and you'll see the controls are a little bit different. The budget period will show you only periods that exist in the top of your category sheet. And it will only show you past periods. You can see I have like July here. That doesn't show here because that's a future period. There shouldn't be any transactions in it. So I only see the current period and past periods. We're going to run the same report on April. And next, we'll see that you can sort by a number of options here. I personally like to sort within a category by amount, because then I can see the biggest line items at the top. And then I don't have to worry so much about the ones at the bottom. But you can also sort by date, description, or note if you choose. So now I'm going to create this report. And you'll see it'll look pretty similar, but there's a few key differences. The first difference is that we have this up in the header, basically a really simple cash flow kind of report. You can also see the header, like the other category roll-up, shows the period. But the big thing is now we're able to see the budget information, which wasn't available in the other report, and also the net of the the budget and the actual costs or actual transactions. You can also see that when we have a category that is unfavorable, it shows in red. And so it's really easy view to kind of go through and see like, where did I miss? You know, so I can be here, I can look here and see, I only had $100 budget here. I spent all this. What happened? Oh, it was like the new ping pong table that I bought. That wasn't in my budget, and that's why that went over. Or I could look here in groceries, another category that went over, and be like, oh, I see like, yeah, that co-op fee that I paid in this line item. That's the reason this one went over by $182. Another feature that is unique in this report is this grouping feature. Right now, it's a little. It allows you basically to kind of cluster categories, types, and groups, basically just to kind of focus in on the categories you're most interested in. So I can right click over here and collapse all groups and kind of just see the top level category types. And then I can drill down and go into, you know, I can see discretionary is negative or unfavorable. So I'm gonna go here, okay, gear and clothing, and I can get kind of right to the categories that maybe concern me the most. I think just two final notes, and then we'll kind of kick it over to Q&A. The first thing to know is that new reports overwrite old reports. So this budget roll-up report has a name. If I try to create the name budget roll-up report, if I try to create another budget roll-up report, and I already have this a sheet with this name in my my spreadsheet, I think I clicked this. I'm not quite sure, honestly. It's either taking a long time or I whiffed on my point and click. There we go. I guess I missed it. So if I create another one of these things right now, let's just say for May, it will prompt me and say, there's already a sheet with this name. Do you want to overwrite it or do you want to rename it? If for some reason I want to hold on to that sheet, you know, I can come down here and call this, you know, April, and then run this report, and it'll actually run for the next period because it won't be trying to write to the same name. And then one last point about this, these reports that's undocumented, and we can get into the Q&A if people are interested, is just that these are run on templates that you can do some customization to. This is, there's really no information on this, but I'd be happy to share it a little bit if people are interested in customizing reports generated by this feature in the Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy. I really love that quick trick of collapsing all the rows. I didn't know about that when you right click.
I didn't know about it until 5 minutes before we started. I was like, maybe they did something like this because that would be cool.
Yeah. I really like that because then it really does help you quickly drill down into like where you're over in certain things. So I'm really psyched about this. And I love that you just whipped it out because you're like, I have this question about my own personal budget. I'm just going to build it in the labs. It really speaks to the nature of labs, of like quickly iterating on things. So that's awesome. All right. So it looks like we don't have any questions right now. So if you have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A tool there, and we'll start working through your questions. So let's see if there's anything in chat.
I was going to say, Heather, if it's helpful, I could just talk for a second about the customizing reports.
Yeah, sure.
It's a little bit of a wonky feature, but when you run a report, one of these three, or actually these 4 reports, 1, 2, and then there's 3 and 4 in here. They're different templates. Basically, we load a sheet, a template sheet from one of our servers into your sheet. And so if you look in here, there's hidden sheets for these reports that I've generated within this spreadsheet. So for example, if I click on this hidden sheet called Report Template Budget Rollup, and let's just say I wanted to add a column over here, you know, and wanted to, like, you know, sum, let's just say create a sum of like this column or something. I mean, again, this isn't really the most practical example, but I can modify this template, and then the next time that I run this report, or I could change the font or font size or the header, all that kind of stuff. If I want to come in and run this report again, it will use this updated version of the template as my master. And so again, so you can see here now, we've got this here, we've got this weird sum that summed all this stuff here. And so you're able to do some work around the margins. The templates do look for these words and replace these. So if these aren't here, they won't get replaced. And then also there's kind of a block here of content that it's going to write as a big square, but you can write all around that. So you could write here, over here, if you want to add columns, you can change the header, and then you can create stuff off to the left. And it will sort of find this as its anchor, this point right here, as the kind of report square, and start populating only that portion. If you ever damage your template or want to go back, you make a mess of it like I've done, you can just delete it. And then the next time you run that report, you will download the master again, and you'll get the fully functional version.
That's awesome. Thanks, Randy. That's pretty neat too, when you think about using these for like a business. If you had a logo, you could get the logo in there. We used to have that setup sheet in the old sort of ecosystem of the business template, and you could add your logo, but you could easily add it to that the report template there that you just demoed. All right, so we do have a few questions. So we'll go through these, and if you have more questions on any subject, to your question, Mark, will you take questions on other subjects on this call? Yes, please post your questions in the Q&A, whatever it is. Doesn't have to be about these reports, and we will do our best to answer if we can. All right, so Patricia asks, can you create graphs from the sheets? It's a good one. Randy, you want to field that one?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just typing an answer to one of the questions. Will we create graphs from the sheets?
Can you create graphs from the sheets?
Oh, from the reports?
Maybe from any sheet. Patricia didn't specify which sheets, but probably just wanting like a pie chart or something like that.
Yeah, you can certainly create graphs from the sheets. Should we? Oh wait, here it looks. Maybe we can ask Patricia to with a text to clarify what the question is.
Sure,
and then,
yeah.
And we can come back to that one.
That sounds great.
Answer that question.
So Pamela asks, my budget screen does not show Tiller Labs. Does this mean I haven't added the add-ons?
Yes, most likely you haven't installed the add-on. So on our community page, you can see information about how to install the add-on by searching on Tiller Labs.
You can also just search, if you go to get add-ons and search for Tiller Labs, you can get it right in the G Suite Marketplace.
Yep, either way. So this is the, I'll just put this in this, the answer for, was it Patricia? But yeah, here's information on how to get it. Here's the add-ons list, the store listing.
Good stuff. Thanks, Randy. All right, so Mark asks, when doing manual additions to the transactions worksheets, which of the columns are optional versus required? i.e. categorize date, date added, and month, week. Do you need to calculate these and add?
Those particular columns are not important. Basically, the only thing that's required are ones that basically the downstream templates that you've installed reference. So typically, especially on the transaction sheet, date is really important. Most of our templates that we offer are going to allow you to group by date. Most of them leverage category information to group by category and to create sums and amount. Typically, those are going to be kind of the three that are relied on, but there are lots of templates, as you've seen in Tiller Labs, and some of them might leverage tags, they might leverage accounts. And so if you pick one that is leveraging a little bit more of one of those unusual columns, you'll want that field populated to include it in those reports. Almost, I don't think I can think of a single template that leverages month or week or categorized date or date added. So those are typically really meant to help you as a user create your own reports by simplifying queries. You know, if month equals this rather than kind of creating ranged lookups. So yeah, generally you can leave those blank and you should be fine.
Will you verify the month thing for the monthly budget? Does that ping pong table transaction show up on the monthly budget? Because I've done some demos in the past in my other webinar where I add transactions, and if I don't have the month data, it doesn't show up on the monthly budget. And I just haven't
I'm
Or
a
still
little, this is
really-
definitely here, Heather. Like
Okay.
I can delete this and you'll see that one drop from negative to positive. See, or not
And
to
it doesn't
positive.
have the month. Okay, I wonder if it has something to do with adding it at row 2. We can dig in further some other time. But I just was curious, and I wanted to make sure we got the right answer to mark. But that's a great
As far
question.
as I know, no reports use these.
Those are great for like pivot tables. Like if you want to create like a monthly pivot table, that's the one. As far as like calculating those, there are some help center articles about how to generate the month data with an array formula pretty easily. And I can put more information about that in the Q&A when we send the link for that. All right, so Jason asks, where do you find the templates to modify? I missed that part. I think he means like the report template.
Yeah, so those are generally hidden at the end of your, so yeah, you click on this little hamburger icon here, and you can see all the sheets. The grayed out ones obviously are hidden, and at the bottom you'll see these ones. We use a convention report template : and then you may have up to four of these within your spreadsheet, and those will be the 4 different masters that are used in our sidebar workflows.
Okay, thanks, Randy. In the example, you have a column called notes. Where was that column added? In the transaction tab? Kenneth asks.
Good question. That actually wasn't in the sheet before we did this demo. I believe it's in the foundation template. Is that correct, Heather?
No, you have to add it.
Okay, well, that is, we do have some, so sort of like the month and the week columns, we do have some scripts and reports that will look for that column. And if it's not there, it's okay. And if it is there, the data gets pulled in. So you can just go ahead and add it right into your transaction sheet. It won't break anything. And the only thing I'd say is that when these columns are used, we use lookups based on the header name. So if you were to use the word, say, notes, most likely the formula, you want to basically follow the convention, because if the word is a little bit off, like you put categories here or notes here, basically those lookups will fail, and the scripts or the templates will sort of see that the column that it expects is there is not there, rather than knowing that note is the same as notes, if that makes sense.
Yes, good call out on the plural versus singular. Okay,
Yeah,
Patricia. Yeah, Patricia follows up with information about the graphs she was referring to, which she says graphs to show % by category of spending per month. I think that's probably a little more advanced than we want to try to demo, but it is possible.
Don't we have that, Heather, in one of the solutions?
I don't know if we have it exactly as % of category of spending per month. If it's, I mean, the monthly analysis has a lot of detailed information about spending per month, but I don't, as far as like graphs, it doesn't have graphs that show percentages.
I think, Patricia, if you're interested in that, maybe if you could ask that in the community, that's something that I can follow up on and help you with some formulas on through a community thread.
Okay, so let's see here. Joshua asks, I remember a comment about implementing automated credit score data in the past. Are there current plans to add score monitoring to Tiller? We don't have anything on the roadmap currently for credit score data. That's a great idea, but just not something we will probably have for a while, if at all. Susan asks, I want to see how my spending this month compares to all the previous months on a running basis by category. Any way to do this already, or is it something I need to create? I don't know if the monthly analysis is probably the closest thing. What do you think, Randy? Do you follow that?
Or yearly, looking at doing comparisons through here. I mean, there's a lot of columns here, so it can be a little bit overwhelming, but perhaps
definitely monthly analysis has the comparison of month over month to show you the delta from the previous month, as well as like the amount actual increase. If you're choosing actuals, you can choose budget, remaining, all that stuff. So I think the monthly analysis. The one that, that's the one. So maybe that will work. Just quickly demo that and see if it fits the bill for Susan. So I'm talking about that starting at line 11A, how it shows. I would change it from past 12 months to this year. Yeah, And then you can see Susan, it gives you, for all of them, you can drill down to a specific category, you can change it from actual to budget, so on and so forth. Hopefully that fits what you were looking for. Let us know if not, and maybe clarify, and we can see if there's something out there better than that. So that's a good one. So Grant asks, I know this is a basic question, but I'm having difficulty getting one of my accounts to sync. What options are there for getting sync issues resolved with lesser known banks? Definitely reach out to the support team using the chat tool that's on the help center or the console, and the CS team can help you get any sync or bank connection data feed issues resolved. So that's good. Good question. Pamela says, did you say go to the community? Is this on my personal budget sheet?
It's not on the personal budget sheet. You can either get there by going to effectively this URL right here. You can see that community.tillerhq.com. It's also, there's a link, if you happen to have Tiller Labs installed, you can also get there by clicking on this community support link.
I think maybe Pamela was asking about how to get Tiller Labs. So if you just go to add-ons and then get add-ons, Randy, and just kind of show how to just find it when you're right in the sheet. You can just search for Tiller Labs in this search apps, and then you can install it from there. And that's sort of the quickest way. Like right from your sheet, you can just go to get add-ons and search for it, and you can find it. Hopefully that helps, Pamela. Let us know if we misunderstood your question. Okay, Brian asks, can you clarify the best way to account for contributions to savings accounts? I have my accounts connected to Tiller, but also budget for them. However, the problem is I categorize them as a transfer, which means it doesn't count as an actual. Do you have any thoughts, Randy, on that? That's sort of a finance workflow question.
This one, I also think it's just, yeah, that one also I feel like would be best in the community, and I'd be happy to jump on the community. But sort of working through this live, I just need a little bit more time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it typically, I think this gets into some of the things that we're working on conceptually here about savings, and like, how do we think about savings? How do we recommend to folks to categorize savings? And then do we have like a good way to kind of track the savings? So it's definitely a riddle. There are some workflows that are out there. So I agree. I think just posting that question in the community, and then we can get you a reply there, or even searching, because I know that there are some existing community topics out there about how to categorize like savings for investments and things like that. So that's a great resource. All right. So Mark asks, is it okay to manually change the description column on a transaction from the automatic feed?
Absolutely. And actually, in the new AutoCat, we offer the ability to kind of do this programmatically. So when a description, like if it says Starbucks store XXX1234, you can use a sort of a match, like the word Starbucks, and then part of your rule could be to strip off all the store number information and just have it replaced with Starbucks. So you can do that. Usually if you have the full description column in your transaction sheet, usually that full description will be preserved if you were ever worried about kind of making a change that you couldn't undo. But yeah, once the data is in your sheet, it's kind of fair play.
Good question though. I was just getting some clarifying information to Pamela about, I think the contents of this webinar is really focused on demoing features and workflows and questions that are beyond just the basic setup. I think she was maybe confused about, whether or not we were going to kind of go through just basic setup stuff. And so that would be the weekly the foundations webinar that we do every week. And so I'll be sure to include that in the Q&A with the link to get registered for that one. All right, so let's see. Any workarounds that you know of for work computers that block Google Sheets? That's a great question. Do you have any ideas, Randy?
I mean,
I don't.
VPN maybe. That's a good question.
Say it again. VPN.
Maybe with a VPN, like you can get past the restrictions on the work computer. But probably if they block Google Sheets, they're probably blocking VPN.
Yeah, probably. All right, I think that's all the questions that we had here. There's one question from Mark, which I think is related to the duplicates issue we were seeing. So I'm going to follow up with you here, Mark. Essentially, we've had some folks that maybe added the statement sheet and then deleted the statements column, or sorry, deleted the statement sheet after that, and then the statements column still exists, and then the way that the Tiller Money Feeds add-on writes the data into your sheet, it breaks things and then it causes duplicates. Just as some simple way to explain it. So it could be related to that if you at some point, Mark, installed the statement sheet. The telltale sign is that there's a statements column in your transaction sheet, but there's no statements sheet in your Google Sheet. And so the fix there is just to delete that statements column. Any duplicate transactions that you already have are not going to go away on their own. You could use the duplicates manager from Tiller Labs, Randy, if you want to show them how to get to that, to clean up those existing duplicates that have already been brought in, or you can just manually clean them up. It sounds about the right time, May 11th. So my guess is that you probably do have that statements column there, Mark. And so that would be the fix. Just delete that statements column and you'll stop getting new duplicates, but you will need to probably use this duplicate manager to get those existing ones out of there. And any other time you have duplicates, like we have a guide for like just kind of what to look for to see if it's something that's, you know, maybe you have a shared account linked twice or something like that. And then last case, you know, we can contact our data provider to deal with the duplicates if they persist. But these are duplicates that are kind of being caused by an issue in the sheet itself when, you know, you're mixing lab stuff with the way the update sheets works. So that was a good demo, Randy.
Yeah, one other quick note, Mark. If you have data that you want to preserve in that statements column, like let's just say you use the column for a while and you don't want to lose the data, you can just basically select the entire column and remove the data validation by clicking like here, data validation. Again, you want to get the whole column selected before you do it. So I do like that, data validation, and then click remove validation. And that will allow you to keep the column without, I believe the bug will resolve, but you won't lose the data.
That's a good note too. Didn't think about that option, but definitely more graceful if you want to keep the data in there versus just deleting the whole column. All right, it looks like that's all the questions that we had. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and definitely spend some time completing that quick survey. Let us know what you'd like to see next. And thanks again. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for the great questions, everyone.
See y'all.
See ya.